speak for Murphy on that account.
Just so I don't get myself confused, I'm going to,
Questions that you talked about. Oh, yeah, I think so. They did. People like have a
You think about this when I saw this Thursday. Questions? I'm not gonna.
yep, he's prepared if you do.
Okay, I figured it might.
Yeah.
Okay, good afternoon. Apologies that we're starting a few minutes late. I call the meeting to order, and at this time, we will have Pastor Sid Stein of the Atchison United Methodist Church. Pastor.
Thank you. Before I give the invocation this afternoon, I just wanted to invite all of you to come to Soup and Sermon. It's at noon. It'll be this Wednesday and a couple Wednesdays following. This is a community effort. All the money that is raised there, the free will donation for soup lunch. I call it your power lunch for the week. And a good message goes towards Hunger Task Force, which is, of course, as you know, a nonprofit in our town that helps to our neighbors with food, utility, and rent insecurity and payment. So you're all welcome to come for that right next door here at Atchison United Methodist Church at 5th and Kansas. And no, I'm not the only one preaching when you have the soup and sermon. So it's all going around and sharing. So you'll be sure to want to come. Let us go to the Lord in prayer. Holy and gracious God of all, we ask for your presence in guiding and strengthening in the challenges of leadership and the responsibility to care for one another. We remember that Jesus was born in a small town, and he grew up under the authority of local leaders and officials who managed a great deal of his daily life. And so today we lift up our local leaders. May there be gratitude for the privilege and the trust that has been afforded this elected body. We lift up our city employees and council, police, EMS, firefighters, and all who come to the aid of our neighbors. May they manage their teams and projects with love for one another and give them a pure heart as they work in the best interest of all the people that they are called to serve. Amen.
And thank you. If you would all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll ask our city clerk, Tina Fitzpatrick, to please call the roll.
Mayor Young,
Present.
Vice Mayor Wilcox,
Present.
Commissioner Greenlee,
Present.
Commissioner Murphy,
Mayor?
Commissioner Slattery.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. At this time, we will open for our public forum. Persons who wish to address the City Commission regarding items that are not on the agenda may do so at this time when called upon by me, the mayor. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Again, speakers are limited to 3 minutes and should give their name and address when addressing the commission. Any presentation is for information purposes only. At this time, the public forum is open. All right, seeing no one, I will close the public forum. At this time, we will move on to our presentations, and we will have our consent agenda presented by City Manager Amy Finch.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. On your consent agenda this afternoon, you have approval of the minutes of the February 20th, 2024 City Commission meeting. Excuse me. and a request to authorize staff to purchase 2 Hustler Super Z Hyperdrive mowers from Kansas Golf and Turf in the amount of $30,497.94 as budgeted in the equipment replacement plan.
Okay, at this time, do we have any questions concerning the consent agenda for Amy? Yes, sir.
I have a couple. What is the expected lifespan of these mowers? Is it 2 years, 5 years?
I think Clinton has that for us. Let me look.
I can tell you
Oh,
that
okay.
the first 2 that we bought of this exact mower were 2011 models, and we still have those. So
And
we don't intend to run them that long, but we try to run them until they break down. So in the past, we tried to keep our kind of our core mowers, the ones that are out doing the main acreage, probably less than 5 or 6 years old. Fewer breakdowns, keeps us going, moving quicker, but we still some that are 13 now, I guess.
Mhm. The other, I did have one other, well, I have 2 questions. Now, do I understand that these mowers discharge from the back, through the back? Or?
Yeah, we started kind of transitioning to those. Probably the first one's probably 4 or 5 years ago. Found it was very helpful, like at the cemetery. That's kind of where we first really thought it was something to go to because we weren't blowing grass and clippings all over the tombstones.
Mhm.
And that kind of made things a little bit easier that way. And then we found there was benefit mowing some of the right-of-ways, which we don't do a lot of right-of-way mowing anymore. It's contracted, but the safety aspect of not projecting things outside helps in the parks too, like down on the riverfront. Dawn till dusk, there were people walking along there. A bit of a safety improvement to have the rear discharge.
And my last question is, both of our bids that came in, very close to each other. Is there anyone local that could supply something similar, or?
Probably the most similar local vendor would be the John Deere dealer, Heritage. Those, the closest mower that they have probably to the caliber of mower that we're recommending tonight is a mower that has a rear discharge option for a 72-inch, which we're looking for 60-inch. Their 60-inch of that same kind of mower is a side discharge only. There are other Hustlers come with a 5-year, 1,500-hour warranty versus 3-year, 1,200, I believe it is, John Deere. We've had John Deeres in the past. These are different models in there, but it's a very long story, and I could go on and on about why.
Okay.
But we've
Well, I'm not really questioning the whole thing. I'm knowing that, because I have a ZTR myself, and I know what I pay. And I'm going to make a joke here. I don't mean anything serious by it, but I would think they'd come with a man to run that rascal for a summer with that much money.
Yeah. When we first started buying these, they were about $9,000. So and that's everybody. They keep going up and up and up.
I understand.
The list price on these are almost $23,000 a piece. We get them for 15. I did not ask for a quote from our local vendor, but the list price, if you look those up, is right about 20, I believe. And I would assume a similar type of municipal discount. These are universally recommended by all of our operators, our park supervisor, our fleet maintenance folks. We have all, with the exception of one mower, which we're going to be selling when we get these. We will have all Hustler mowers, all the same parts stocked. There's some advantages to not mixing it up too much.
Okay. Thank you.
Amy,
Yes.
these mowers are within our budgeted
They are, yes.
Okay.
I believe our budget for ERP was 31,000, so both quotes actually came in underneath that budgeted amount, and both quotes were very close to each other.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Any other questions?
How long before you can get your mowers? Give me a timeline?
I believe they stated that, and I would hate to tell you a number, but it's not like gonna be like vehicles, a year or two. It should be here by the time summer gets here. Maybe not by the time we first start cutting grass, but be here with. They're usually like.
All right, any other questions? Okay, if not, are we ready to entertain a motion to adopt the consent, to approve, excuse me, the consent agenda? Thank you. We have someone who has moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we are on to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Now we are on to new business. Ordinance number 6700, Vision for Planned Development, and Mr. Curtis Wheeler will be presenting this for us. Curtis.
Good evening. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Good. So I'm not Phil. However, I'm going to do my best in providing you some information for the rezoning for Raven Hills Planned District. As you read through the packet, the recommendation will ultimately be to approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve a zoning change. The background on this, Vision 4 First LLC, they submitted an application to rezone the area from R1 to a PD. The area has been designed as a planned development or planned district. The majority of surrounding properties are zoned R1. They're planning on doing a mixture of residential structures. There was some opposition in the early days of the submittal, and I think there had been an agreement made between those groups, and then the Planning Commission, they held the public hearing on February 7th of this year, 2024. As we get into the policy consideration, again, as you all have probably read already, but I'll still put it out there, the new PD is adjacent to Benedictine College in their current PD or planned development zone. It allows for alternate adjustments as outlined on the adopted plan. And the Planning Commission may need to address any of the ADUs, which is accessory dwelling units, and single-family attached language, and amend the current zoning regulations to provide, to provide consistency, which then gets us back to the recommendation of approving the recommendation of the Planning Commission. They unanimously voted to approve the rezoning of the property as outlined from R1 to PD at their meeting on February 7th. I believe when you look through, there's property layouts, there's so there's a land use plan, there's the conceptual layout aerial map, there's a setback plan, like I said, utility plan, traffic flow plan, grading. That's pretty much it. And then there's a current. So any questions, I'll do my best to answer those.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have one. Assuming this passes tonight, is there a start date for streets and what they're going to do up there? Do you have a start date?
Yes, please, yes, absolutely.
David Egger, 209 North Terrace. I represent Vision 4 tonight. We anticipate starting some elements of it this year, north of the area of First and Riley. And then we had discussions with an interested buyer just last week on the area south of First and Riley, and we anticipate starting that next year.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had a question. One time, I don't remember whether it's you guys or we were just talking about ourselves about second pulling up there and having a spot for a car to kind of land on before it goes into Second Street. What's this red telling us? I can't see.
Commissioner, I think that's showing you on the pink is indicating that is a duplex. And then the smaller portion in the back is an accessory dwelling unit. And then you'll see the gray sections are parking
Are we still
spaces.
plotting about putting a little wide spot there to parking it on Second Street?
If I may, the plan is still conceptual. So given that information, what we've conceptually agreed to is that we will design the alley behind, to the west of First Street to facilitate all those homes having access on Kearney out onto Second. So that's in an effort to reduce the traffic loading. The actual design of the street that you're talking about in that direction will be beyond the scope of our work that we can control. The city has agreed in our development agreement to take that on at some point in the future. It's going to be, I'm sure, several budget cycles away, but that's...
We're going to have room there to widen the street there at Laramie where it comes on to Second then? Your building
I would
set back away from there far enough to do that?
I would defer to the city staff on that.
I don't, not yet, no, there's not, I don't believe you have a plan on widening. You've looked at them, correct? But as far as like a engineered plan, you do not have.
Well, with the development agreement, I believe it only describes a resurfacing of Riley. And then on Laramie, no street improvements, I don't think. I think it's just some curb and gutter work at Laramie. So I would say no, there's not been anything talked about in terms of adding a turn lane or.
Just a little wider spot up there as you come up out of that Laramie, come up to Second. I see. You can't, there's not a spot there for a car to level off and then on to Second. As if there's a little bit of a pad of something. But if you try to put a pad there, we're gonna get in a stricter elevation behind.
Commissioner, I think the alleyway that would come off onto that stub on Kearney, Clinton and I went over and looked, there's a barricade there now, because if you drove through it,
Yeah,
you
that'd take
drive
care of a lot
off.
of the pressure
I
for
think,
sure.
yes, I think,
Yeah.
and that's a little bit flatter
I just look at it
area
having
to go up.
Another one, but I think we could live with
But Mike, if you look around, go to 10th and Kansas Avenue,
it. Yeah, it's the
coming,
same thing. a lot.
it's the fact that when you're built on a hill, you're gonna have to deal with the hill.
All right, thank you.
I'll send you a text.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any other
Yeah,
questions?
is there some question of the language here that we're getting ready to vote on? Ladies?
Do we have a question? If you do, we would be glad to hear it.
Our attorney, Alan Turnett, was not able to attend tonight. He and John Thomas had agreed that this PD, as we talked about at the Planning Commission on February 7th, that it was going to be predominantly only R1, and that they were going to try to change the ordinance for planned developments that could be R1, R2, R3, any one of those three or any combination. But I want at least the record to reflect that we have agreed to predominantly R1 only, and that we get the ordinance changed to reflect that, because I don't want to come back a year from now when somebody comes in and says, well, now we're building apartment complexes. I think that we all in good faith came to the table to try to get to a consensus, so I just want the council or the commission to understand what our concerns were and to make sure that it's reflected in what you're voting on today.
See,
So I attended the planning commission meeting on the 7th. Brought my own boxing gloves, so I was ready. And I was blown out of the water that there was this, everything's good. Everybody agrees. Everybody agrees were the words that I
Right.
heard. And so is there some part of this language in her statement that I'm missing here, or?
John Thomas with Vision 4. No, there's been no change. I think that's just, with Alan and possibly with the city attorney. I'm not quite sure what the process is for the ordinances to be amended, but we're supportive of this being, with the exclusion of a couple items that Alice is aware of this being an R1 plan development. So, no, there has been no change.
Commissioner, if I may, that was brought up, as you probably remember, by Mr. Turnett, and the chairman, Mr. Steck, did inform everyone in the gallery that they would not be taking up changes to the ordinance at that time. That would require a separate process. First, a proposal would need to be brought forward. It would start at the Planning Commission and then would be final approval by the City Commission. But there have not been any discussions, and had not been, with staff at least, prior to that meeting. And so the chairman, and we do have it reflected in the Planning Commission minutes, that the chairman of Planning Commission did say that item would not be taken up at that time.
So the language that we're going to vote on is correct. Have you read this statement?
Is that right, Mr.?
I think the language of the motion, yes.
Motion that we're
What
going to have a
they're,
roll call vote on.
which I believe staff feels it is accurate.
Okay, and it's
that
also,
works for Vision 4 as well? Because the plan development, is some of the funding contingent upon it being plan development? Are there any tax benefits to that terminology?
I'm sorry, Coach, I'm not sure I understand the question.
If it's a plan development, are there some tax benefits that go along with it being a plan development?
No, there's no direct tax benefits with it being named a tax development, no. No, there are, we have a separate district called RHID, Rural Housing Investment District, which was codified, I think, in 2020, spring of 2022, I believe. So that's related to property taxes. So that's the only tax implication related to this.
I see. But in terms of how this is worded, our motion will be worded via what we're seeing here. This reflects what was agreed upon.
It is my opinion, and I will allow the city attorney to speak for himself, but yes, this accurately reflects what was approved unanimously by the Planning Commission.
Okay.
As a recommendation for your approval.
Okay, all right. Mr. Campbell, do you agree?
The code.
Okay, and I think we can certainly reflect the sentiments of the concerns of the Arnett's that.
Yes, we'll get that on the record for the minutes for your approval at your next meeting.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, any other questions or concerns at this moment? If not, I will entertain a motion that we move to a roll call vote, but that we adopt ordinance number 6700, approving the recommendation of the Planning Commission to rezone Raven Hills Development Area from R1 and G to PD, plan development, and authorize the zoning map to be amended to show the area as PD.
I make such a motion.
Thank you. Yes, I did say 6700, right here. We're on them.
I'm sorry, I was jumping ahead.
That's,
Okay.
okay, all right, and you're welcome. Okay, it's been moved, is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance number 6700, approving the recommendation of the Planning Commission to rezone Raven Hills Development Area from R1 and G to PD, plan development, and authorize the zoning map to be amended to show the area as PD. Tina, if you would please call the roll.
Mary Young,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Greenlee?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item number 2, ordinance 6702, street vacation Vision 4 First LLC, presented by Curtis Freeler.
All right, so the next part of this will be approving the submitted plans and adopting the ordinance, creates a plan development in the general area that is south of Mound, east of Second Street. The goal is to allow infill development, since that's a focus outlined in our comprehensive plan. Several of the vacations of the streets are currently undeveloped or non-maintained streets and alleys, which is going to be the First Street, Kearney Street intersection. The plan, if approved, would permit setbacks different from those normally required in standard single-family zoned areas. This is also part of the RHID district in cooperation with the development plan with the City of Atchison. Vision 4, and they are the primary landholder in that particular location.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
could I add to?
Yes, please.
Chris, on your packet, pages 35 and 36, you have maps that are illustrating the vacated portions of the street. Page 35 is showing you, I believe it's actually a partial vacation of the First Street right-of-way. So on the east side of First Street, you'll see some stars. And that has to do with the sawmill sewer that will be running behind those structures when they're built. That allows them to build them up a little further to stay off of that.
Okay.
Page 36 shows you a section of Kearney. I don't know if I'm going to get this right here. Between First, someone might need to help me out here. I think it's going to be in here.
In second.
Developers, would you run us through what the Kearney vacation covers?
You mind if I step up? to
Sure.
the screen?
Yes, please.
Yes, please help us.
Let me get the orated here. So, north. Here's alleyway. First Street.
Okay.
So there's dead end. That dead end will remain. So in this unused land here, we plan to have that vacated from the alley, not the alley, alley to street.
And those vacations, I believe, are reflected in the plan that was approved in your previous item.
Okay, all right, good. Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, if I will entertain a motion so that we can adopt ordinance number 6702, vacating certain parts of North First Street and certain parts of Kearney Street, all blocks 71, 80, 104, and 105 in the city of Atchison. And this motion will then authorize a roll call vote called by Tina, our city clerk. Is there a motion? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance number 6702. Tina, if you could please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Wilcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Greenlee?
Yes.
Commissioner Murphy?
Yes.
Commissioner Slattery?
Yes.
Mayor Young?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we will have item number 3, gas pipeline reimbursement agreement by Clinton McNamee.
All righty, so this agreement's in regards to the runway project out at the airport. We have a gas pipeline utility that runs below what will be the new runway. what I'm proposing tonight is to ask for authorization to enter into, for staff to execute a reimbursement agreement with the pipeline company prior to having the commission actually reviewing the actual agreement, which is a little bit out of our ordinary procedure, but the idea would be that we would make, the city attorney would review it and staff would review it. And if it's something that the attorney and staff agree that it's appropriate and captures the essence of what this agreement's about, that we would execute when we have that decision because of the time sensitivity of this. Or else I would say let's just wait until the next available commission meeting after we are presented with the agreement. So Magellan is the company. They are preparing the agreement. I don't have an exact day of when it might be ready. So every day is critical. We're at that point now. We're like 6 months behind when this should have started due to various reasons, one of which with Magellan specifically is that they were purchased by a company called One Oak. And so we went through a lot of process with Magellan, and then One Oak had to do it again. And so that's kind of where we're at. But basically the basics of it are they are going to do that work. So what they're going to do is, I don't know how to describe it, put another utility right next to the one they got that's got a heavier walled pipe. And the idea is after we put 30 feet of fill on top of it in a runway, that this heavier pipe will have a better chance of not failing, in the next 20 years or whatever number you want to put on it. The estimate is right around $1 million, a little over $1 million. The city will reimburse them for that cost up front on this one. The FAA will reimburse the city 90% of that, just like every other part of this project. It's all 90% grants. And then the final tallies will happen after the project's over. It might end up less. I wouldn't expect it to end up more. I'm sure they're being conservatively high on their estimates. But right now, even the schedule that they're telling us is putting a bit of a concern with the primary contractor due to the grading. And the goal is to get this thing paved before it gets cold. Right now, Magellan's timeline is causing a bit of concern with that. However, there may be another route we can go should some other funding come through for us that we've been waiting for a while. That would reroute the gas line around the runway and avoid this. We still have to do a reimbursement agreement. We still have to do easements and all that kind of stuff. But the conflict with the actual main construction project would sort of be a moot point because they could just leave their current one live as they build out the other one, and we should be able to build right on top of it and not be slowed down if it all works out that way. But like I said, right now, this is a little bit unorthodox to ask for an agreement, authorization to sign an agreement that doesn't exist yet. Although every day that we don't give them the green light is more chance that we're not going to get this runway built by the winter. So that's why I'm here recommending that you trust staff and our city attorney to not enter us into anything that would be harmful to the city. And then obviously you would see the final product eventually once it was done. However, I do think it seems like things are going to change here very soon on the route we're taking on the funding. So this might all be somewhat irrelevant, because we might have a different agreement we're talking about in a few weeks. So
Where's that pipeline?
if you can picture, I want to say it was a 40-ish acre parcel just east of the airport. I think it was Ron Estes maybe that had it in the past, and it's a bit of a valley going through there. Had some like a cattle fence on it, kind of an oddly shaped fenced off area. I don't know if you can picture that at all, but that gas line is in the low spot of that valley.
So it goes from the south there to highway, leads north. It's gonna be.
Right, and it's a bit of an
Underneath the
angle.
runway now.
Sorry, what was the last
It's
question?
not underneath the runway we have now.
No. This would be the new runway. And like I said, in that spot, because it's a low spot, to get up to elevation, they're going to put over 30 feet of fill on top of it. So that's the reason for the wanting to put in an improved pipe, less chance of failure. There's I can't say that word. Rural Water District 5 has also got 2 water mains in the area but they're going to relocate around the end of the new runway. We just didn't have enough funding from the FAA to do that with Magellan. However, we submitted an earmark request to our senators and congresspeople. And like I said, I don't want to jump the gun on that, but there's still a possibility that we'll have funding to reroute the gas pipeline.
So would it be more expensive to reroute it around?
Yep. But it'd be a similar deal. I think it added another $1.5 million to that. So we go from 1 million to about 2.5 million. It's all 90% funded by the FAA if we get that earmark. The other thing, I think I mentioned it before, is that I would hope within the next week we should hear back from KDOT on a grant that we put in for half of our local match for the main part of the, so it'd be about $450,000 grant to us. If we get that frees up our CIP pretty considerably. So I'm really crossing my fingers for that one. And
Clinton, when will we know on the KDOT grant?
like I said, they said late February, early March. So I don't have an exact date, but I would hope within the next week that they're going to release that.
And, go ahead. Okay, thank you. With the a little over $1 million that you're requesting at this point, when will we need to pay that? And then did you say that FAA will reimburse us 90% for this or 90% for the entire project?
Both.
Okay, so 90% of this 1 million, so roughly about 975,000.
As of now, all the contracts and things associated with the runway project will be covered 90% by FAA grants. So there's nothing that the city's doing unilaterally. We're going to have the same reimbursement agreement with rural water eventually. We're not to that point yet, but those are 2 separate contracts that those utilities take care of on their own. However, we'll reimburse them, and then the FAA will reimburse us. It can happen so fast that we won't even float the cost.
Okay. So,
except for the 10% local match.
Okay.
And then that'll be our.
Just one quick question. Of this $1,083,000, do we have to pay that now and then we get reimbursed?
So with the gas pipeline, they want all of it. That's their policy. They want all of it up front. They've refined their estimates since I wrote this report, so it's $50,000 less. It's $1,030,000 and some. They will want that full payment up front.
And
So we will, but at the same time, we'll submit a request to the FAA, and it only takes a few days to get that.
okay, that was my next question was, we pay that, and I have, one of my questions is this out of our, even though they're going to repay us 90%, we have to have it today, and do we have it budgeted, or do we have capacity to do that without kicking in some other, even though we're going to get 90% of it back?
We do, yes.
Okay.
We've got available cash to do that, and then our match is budgeted.
Okay.
Yep, and then we've got our grant reimbursements budgeted as well, so it shows us
Okay,
an
we have it
offset.
budgeted for 24.
Yes, the airport project, yes.
Okay.
And some, I think, happened, the parts that have already happened, of course, were in prior budget years, but yes, we've got our.
Okay, all right. Well, that answers my
So
question.
is this gonna be about a quarter of a mile long pipeline?
if we go with Plan A, which is what this is based on, it's about, it's replacing 1,200 feet, I believe. So about a quarter of a mile, I guess, right? Is that right? Yeah, or a fifth.
You know, the pipeline tells us out in the agriculture thing, we had a problem, just bury it. Being buried 30.
I don't know how old the pipe there is now, so this would be replacing with new pipe and then also heavier walled pipe. So if the ground shifts or anything like that, that they don't have to do any major excavation. I think it would be, and I've talked to Magellan, they would not excavate if it came to that. They would probably do directional drilling in the future if they had to replace that pipe. Yeah.
I think we're looking at a 50-year-old.
I don't know when the last time, if it's original pipe or not, I don't know.
Every bit of that. I'm thinking maybe 75 years, if it's the same line I'm thinking about.
No,
Otherwise,
yeah,
we should have to
I
pay
think
them.
that's when it was done, but I don't know if they've done anything since then, is what I'm saying.
Why we have to pay them to grade their pipeline? It just, to me, like, take care of it.
They have the, so like rural water, for example, they have an easement on our airport, the older part of the airport. And we bought, the city acquired the land that had the easement.
So we're subject to that easement.
Yeah, so we don't have as much leverage that direction. So, and I think it probably, and I should say it this way, let's say that that pipe did break. The way that their easement is that they wouldn't be on the hook to fix our runway back to the condition it was in. And so it's probably beneficial to us to go ahead and partner with them to make that as resistant to environmental issues as we can. Like I said, I'm still holding hope here in the next couple of weeks that something else will materialize, but I want to get this in place so that when I'm ready to make that call, we can do it and not slow
I
this
just think we ought
project
to sure
down.
keep in mind, if we're dealing with a 75-year-old pipeline, what's the expected life of that?
I don't.
You know, I just think that we're spending an awful lot of somebody's money here. I think Magellan ought to. They're getting by, I don't know.
I bet you like the one that goes into your house.
I don't like the one that
What, kind of slightly off topic, but
Yeah.
while I got the podium here and we're talking about the airport, the notice proceed was issued today to our primary contractor out there. Tomorrow, one of the subs should be mobilizing to do some tree clearing. Should not affect the operation of the airport at all. And then we are looking at April 1 for a runway closure of the existing runway, and the airport would be effectively shut down to aerial traffic, except for the one helicopter guy we got, until this project is done. So April 1, they'll start with dynamic compaction of the old landfill area, and then grading soon after that. And hopefully these utilities will kind of work in combination with the grading, and we'll be paving by September and have our new runway by the winter. So
I'm going to change gears on you too. Do we have any kind of log of the use of the airport, how much usage there is there?
nothing that I would say is, accurate. It's observational based. They'll say it in terms of operations per year, which is combination of landings and takeoffs. With the aerial
I expressed my
sprayers.
concern a couple meetings ago that almost wish we could back up a couple years and rethink this whole thing. But we're too far into it now to do that. But I'm a little bit concerned about an airport that's cost a lot of money, $10 to $12 million for improvements, that 95% of our citizens aren't going to use. At a town that doesn't even have a bus line, a cab, or even an Uber driver. But we're going to have a new $12 million airport improvement. So I'm concerned about what the use is going to be, and especially Midwest made their decision, and how's that going to impact on the usage. So I'm going to vote for this, but I'm hoping there's not a whole lot coming down the line that's going to be spending more money at this airport.
The other thing I would say, is that I'm not aware of anybody that's been pushing for a bus line or backing it. No private investors backing that. I don't know. No one's been after grants for something like that. Sometimes it's opportunistic where the grants are is where what you focus on, and it's like kind of a similar thing to where we would do a. I'm trying to think. When we did the North 2nd Street Corridor project, there was a grant, and that fit the parameters of that grant fairly well. We got sidewalks and curb and pedestrian lighting, and we
But that's used by a lot of our citizens.
right. And then, but some would argue that I don't remember what the local match on that was. I'll just say 200,000. It was $1 million project, 200,000. That's probably rounding, but some might say that we should spend 200,000 on fixing the worst sidewalk all over town instead of targeting that one area. So it's kind of, but there is no grant for doing 50 feet here, 50 feet there, 100 feet over. There's no grants for that. You got to put a proposal together that works with the grant.
And I understand that a
programs.
lot of the money that's going into this is grant money, but still, it's money that's coming from citizens somewhere, and so a lot of money is going into this airport. I hope a whole lot of planes start flying in there, Yeah, I hope we get some kind of return on the investment, Mr. Green. So, whoever's money it is.
With the museum out there, and then they've got some plans for more development out there. We still have 2 or 3 people that have already talking about building new hangars and things, and that's the hope.
Offer airplane rides to our citizens.
I am sure that if someone went out there, and somebody would take them up on that if they asked. I'm sure they would.
Well, any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay, if not, and I certainly echo the concerns of my colleagues as well in terms of the investment, but like Commissioner Greenlee, I'm hoping that investments will come in, so appreciate that. At this point, I will entertain a motion to authorize staff, as advised by the city attorney, to enter into a reimbursement agreement with Magellan Pipeline 1, okay, for modification of gas pipeline at the airport in conjunction with the construction runway. Is there a motion?
I make such a motion.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion, and there was one no. Okay. Motion carries with a 4-1 vote. Okay. Communications presented by our city manager, Amy Finch.
Very briefly, your communications this afternoon include a letter from our auditor that's just confirming the scope, the planned scope of our audit, and they've identified the start date, which we expect to have them here the week of April 15th. Audit week, tax week, all kinds of fun stuff in there. We are already beginning some preliminary work and completing things for them, gathering what we know they'll need. We will upload as much as possible to them, and then they'll be on site to look at some of our test transactions and interview staff. The other more of an announcement is that we did not receive any applications for the board openings that we had advertised for, so the city clerk will post that advertisement again. I believe we need 1 or 2 for Budget and Audit Committee. 1 for Budget and Audit Committee, and we are still seeking applicants to round out the Design Review Committee. And if you remember, that one is established as part of the newly adopted downtown design guidelines. I think we need 1 with historic background and 1 industrial for those. And then Tina will get that advertisement posted again. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Amy. And there are no informational items, is that correct? Okay, we are ready for governing body comments. Commissioner Greenlee? Comments? Okay, thank you. Commissioner and Vice Mayor Wilcox?
Oh, I hope we're moving closer to our Raven Hill plan development here. It's gone through a lot of hoops, and can't keep everybody happy, but I hope everybody's at least satisfied, so.
Right.
Anxious to see that begun.
Good. All right. Commissioner Slattery?
I guess I don't have anything.
Okay. All right.
I was just gonna growl about the pipeline.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. All right, Commissioner Murphy.
I really don't have anything. I agree somewhat with Larry on getting that's why I asked how soon they could start, because I think the quicker they start, the better off everybody will be. And I'm glad to see the airport actually starting, because it happened in 1999 when I was on the commission the first time, and we're literally 25 years later that we're finally getting the new runway. It's encouraging. I think it's good for our community. And I know Larry's concerned about the individuals who are paying for it, and maintenance of it and operation of it are probably not users. But my venture is no one in this room has used the Lions pool last year, and we aren't going to close the Lions pool. And if we needed to, we'd probably build a new pool if it got down to that. So there's things that I hope I never use the ambulance in this town or the fire department. But we need to have those things that make us a community.
All right, thank you. I would just like to reiterate a couple of things. One, our board openings, if citizens would please take a look at our board openings. I understand there's one for budget and audit, and then for the design review committee, we need someone with a historic background and also design background, and I am sure those will be explained on our website. So please do go to our website and consider volunteering, because we definitely need it. Secondly, I echo everyone's sentiments regarding Vision 4. I am very excited to see that project move forward. Collaboration can be very difficult, but I am glad that we were able to persevere through it. Yes, Commissioner Murphy.
I do have
Yes.
one more question, and I bet I've heard it 25 times. Where's Deefy Bowler's sign or statue? Anybody know?
So it got damaged, oh gosh, over a year ago maybe?
Yeah, well, I think everybody wants to know where he is.
In a vehicle accident.
I recall that.
We took it and took it to Lawrence, where a restoration company fixed him up. He is at the city shop, as far as I know, unless we've moved him to another city facility. He's in a city facility, and we are waiting, I think, kind of working with the Art Association at this point to figure out what the final configuration of the art installations will be on the mall, because he was kind of front and center.
He was.
And there's been some discussion about maybe that's not the best place to put a statue, considering what happened. And so there's been some talk about kind of moving him east and north a bit.
Okay, well, as long as, I think a lot of people thought we just abandoned it, and I said, I'm going to see if I can find out. Thank you for the info.
So what statue is this?
The guy that played the Brick Streets, Deefy Bowler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that, Commissioner Murphy. I appreciate that. I have two other things. Want to congratulate Atchison United regarding the signing for the Heavy Johnson Memorial. We appreciate that. It was great to see citizens out and a broad coalition of citizens. And then secondly, as we are beginning March as Women's History Month, we just finished with February is Black History Month, but March as Women's History Month. Encourage everyone who has not gone to the Amelia Earhart Hanger Museum, please do so. And then on March 10th, there will be a reenactment for Bessie Johnson, and hopefully all citizens can come out and watch that as well. With that, do we have any other comments or concerns? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Wonderful. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Did it in less than an hour, Michelle.
Also, put your hand down.
Say if you want to get done in the hour.
Yes, I hope you all.
I read it. I took notes.
Okay.
Very good, very good, very good.